Well, small people are arguing over who is going to mix the next batch of mortar. I bet it's neither of them. Well, this is how we do our weather forecasting here, and I'm looking across. This garden is Le Jardin de Monsieur Thomas. He's a nice lad. Doesn't live here permanently, but it's his house. And we're looking at that roof there, and as you can see, the chimneys there are brightly illuminated with the sun, which means that the weather at the moment is sunny. But that's not really what we came out to do. What we came out to do was to have a quick look to see if the fairies did anything during the night, and they seem to have done something during the night. Yeah, these are little bits of progress. But today is not going to achieve much progress because, well, there's a few things I've got to do. The first thing that I've got to do, I've been tasked with buying some stuff for an old lady. One of the joys of being a young man with a car is old ladies ask you to do things which, you know, that's a good thing to do. You know, we all sort of moan a bit that it's inconvenient. Well, if it wasn't inconvenient, it wouldn't be a charitable act, would it? She wants me to get a couple of bags of enduit so that her grandson can finish her, I'll call it a shed. It's rather more substantial than a shed. But yeah, her grandson has promised to do it, and yeah, there's various stories as to why I've got to go to the shops and get 2 bags of a very particular type of enduit. That's the render that you put up walls. So that's my first job of the day. And there are other things that need to be done. Yeah, isn't it amazing? When you want to do washing these days, you know, once upon a time people used to go down to the river, and in many, many little French villages and French towns they have what they call a lavoir. And it was a communal place where the women of the town would take their laundry and would sit and scrub it in running fresh water. But these days, of course, we buy these peculiar sort of sacks of various chemicals that you throw in the washing machine, and yeah, and then you're left with a box. And they're recyclable, yes, okay, that's all good. But what we can do with them instead, we can drill some holes in the bottom of it and we can grow hollyhocks. Yesterday, I was cutting stone and I was covered, absolutely covered in stone dust. Not a good thing, actually. It makes you itch and it gets everywhere, and it's yeah. But you know, needs must and all that. And 3 people came walking up the impasse. Now, I didn't know these 3 people, and you know, it's odd to have visitors that you don't know. Well, it was 2 ladies, one of whom unfortunately was required to use a walking frame, and a gentleman, quite a big tall gentleman. And I said hello, and they said hello. It was all very civilised, and they explained that the two ladies had been born in this house, and they just wanted to see it. This is something that actually happens quite a lot, and one of the things that I found early on was there was a lot of people born in this house. At one time there was 10 children, and at another time another family had 12 children in this house. So there's actually a lot of people that were born there that will come to see the place. Anyway, they were very, very civilised and very chatty, and it was all quite pleasant. And I asked them if they knew the people, knew the families that lived in this house. And they, oh yes, they did. Now, I obviously didn't, but in times past there was a Monsieur et Madame Giraudon who lived in this house. I know the grandson, one of their grandsons, who still lives in the town. He's quite an interesting chap. He was the chap who organised the car rally that I showed. Anyway, they said, oh yes, Monsieur Giraudon, he was a lovely man, and so on and so forth. And then this lady said, there's a funny little story about Monsieur Giraudon. He was not allowed in the house in his sabot. If you were Dutch, you might call them clogs, wooden shoes. And she explained that he had sabot that he had stuffed with hay to make them comfortable, and because he wasn't allowed in the house in his outdoor shoes, he always left them outside the door. And the two ladies started to giggle, and this obviously was something from their childhood, because the naughty children, and they didn't admit it was them, the naughty children pinched his shoes and ran off with them. And poor Monsieur Giraudon had to come out in his bare feet to chase them to get his shoes back. So there we are. That was the interruption yesterday. It was a very, very pleasant interruption. I don't mind it at all. They did apologise for taking up my time. But sometimes standing, listening, standing, talking, sometimes is more important than cutting stone. Anyway, the gentleman offered to shake my hand, and I showed him my hands, which were absolutely filthy. And he smiled, and he quoted a bit of French philosophy, I guess, and I think he realised that my French wasn't good enough, so he spoke it in very, very good English and said, the hands of an honest workman are never dirty.